but there are at least 5 ways that we get support from people in our lives that help us with everything, and particularly in this case, our forgiveness journey. And let's see, and these are the 5 ways that Bruce Feiler wrote a book called Life in Transitions, and he's written several books, you may have heard of them. But these are some of the ways that he says that people show up in our lives. And I feel like, the bottom line is that we need help, that we're not meant to do this all, to go through life doing it all on our own, especially the really hard stuff, like forgiveness. And so, comforters, nudgers, slappers, modelers, naysayers, I think you'll see that you've probably had some people in your life that would fit into all those categories. A comforter is someone who says, I love you, I trust you, I believe in you, you can do it. It's the kind of person who will almost do anything to help you out. I'll buy you a plane ticket. I'll drive you to that job interview if you need a ride. I want to make sure you've got what you need to go back to school in the fall if you're making a change in your life. As I think about it, it's a mentor that I had in college that when I told her about my mother's mental illness and what I had experienced in high school and how concerned I was about how it might affect me, this woman who had a really high-level career job that was very, very busy, she dropped everything to make a connection for me with her friend who was a doctor who could get the medical records from my mother's treatments and bring clarity to the situation so that I didn't have to spend the rest of my life in fear and paralyzed that someday that this illness might come upon me too. And the fact that she just dropped everything to make that happen in a matter of days and weeks was just, to me, she was a comforter. She said, I'm going to be here with you, get you through this. So I hope we've all had some people like that in our lives. And then there's nudgers. A nudger is someone that says, I love you, but maybe you should try this instead. I remember, it's the kind of person who says, I really believe in you, but would you like some feedback that might help you grow a little and try and improve at what you're doing? And it's a story, it reminds me of a story I read about a woman that was a freelance journalist, but she wasn't really enjoying that very much, and at one point her father passed. And when the family was going through the process of the funeral service for her father, she was really moved by how the funeral director interacted with the family and how comforting and reassuring he was. She started to think, maybe I would like to do that kind of work. And she started taking classes to become an undertaker. And at one point, she shared this with a friend, and the friend said, Amy, I love you, but I think you need to go a little deeper. What you're talking about still is coming off as kind of shallow. No pun intended here, dig a little deeper. And at first she was kind of stunned by the feedback because she thought she was doing the right thing. But then she thought about it some more and she realized there had been quite a few deaths in her family. And she always had sort of naturally been the person that helped to lift people up in their times of sadness and sorrow. And so she did go on to complete her degree in mortuary science, but with the help of a friend who happened to be an astrologer, she took a different turn to it. She started her own business, and she named the business Inspired Funerals. And she created a beautiful website that brought together her approach to spirituality and serving people in this very special way. And the astrologer encouraged her to launch the website for her business. you'll like this, at 12:28 p.m. on Sunday, because this astrologer said that would be a really auspicious time to launch your business. And so she sat at home in front of her computer, waited for the appointed moment. She played this funeral service of Winston Churchill on a YouTube video because she knew it would make her cry. And she launched the button to start her business, Inspired Funerals. And now she's doing what she loves. And her approach to it went from being a little bit shallow to being very profound and deep, thanks to a nudger in her life. And then there's slappers, somebody who are a little bit firmer in their feedback to us. I love you, but maybe you shouldn't be doing that, or you shouldn't have done this, or anybody, I can tell by the laughs here in the room, maybe you've had somebody in your life that said, that painting, I don't know about that there. Maybe you should put that aside and start over again. But I remember I'll be honest with you, years ago, one time, somebody gave me some feedback about a Sunday lesson here that I did at church. And they were giving me some feedback about how they felt I could improve. And I'll have to admit I was a little taken aback by it. And it took me a little while to process it. But then I realized, you know what? They're just really wanting me to be the best minister that I can be. And that's their way of helping. And I took that feedback and I really took it into heart. And I think I've incorporated it into what I do now. So we can thank God for the slappers that help us to move forward. And then a modeler, of course, is someone that we may know personally, who we may never meet, but somebody who inspires us, that sets an example, that helps us to reach it, and we may be able to reach out to them and get support and guidance, or maybe just knowing about their life is an inspiration. And then, of course, the last person that helps us with our journey of growing and forgiveness is a naysayer. I didn't even want to put in what they might say there. But they might say, oh, you're a fool or crazy, or you can never do that. That's not a good idea. And sometimes that's the best thing that can happen, because it makes us even more. That's the fuel that we need to say, I'm going to prove them wrong. Go for it and do it anyway. And the best example of that, the classic example, is Oprah Winfrey. Do you know early on in her career, she was fired by a local TV station in Baltimore. I guess the local news director of the station, he said, you're unfit for television. You're too emotionally invested. Well, that turned out to be her greatest strength. One of her great strengths. So she went on to prove him wrong. But I think forgiveness is about knowing that we don't have to do it alone. Somehow the universe, in its infinite wisdom and kindness, sends people into our lives at different times to perhaps play these different roles to help us to move forward.